Hello, Steve White, Steve Out 89. Well, Empire printed an article on Avatar 2 and 3. Or Avatar 2, The Way of Water, because that's the one that's being released now. Avatar 3 doesn't have a name yet. But there was some interesting little bits of information. Now, I had heard long ago that they were doing an Avatar sequel and multiple Avatar sequels right after the film came out. Because it was a big hit right away. Everyone knew it was a hit. And people were talking about sequels right away. And I remember hearing that and thinking, okay, why not? And they just never happened. There was no talk for ages, like of anything advancing or anything. And then years later, it was like, oh, we're filming them. And we've been filming them for like a long time. I'm like, oh, so they're actually happening. I didn't think they were happening. I mean, I went and saw the film with, the original film with a friend who I think had seen it before. Because I know he was just really enamored with it, thought it was amazing. I liked it, but I've bought it on DVD and Blu-ray and I've never watched it since. I'll get around to it one day, I guess. But visually it was amazing and in 3D on the cinemas. But I mean, that was like a thing that happened and then people got used to 3D and then got bored of it and then it went away. So I can't see this film, the sequels, having the same sort of impact. And I was surprised that they were actually happening because I knew they would have been financed on that initial success and response, but you know, would that actually last? So and I'd heard that actually we're doing 4 sequels and they're doing 5 films altogether, and I was like, that they'd finance them, they were filming them all, and that's why James Cameron had spent so long working on these films, because they were filming like back to back to back to films, and they were just going to be releasing them as they finished them. I was like, wow, that's a huge, disturbing commitment, 5 films. What they actually did was they did finance, apparently, all 4 sequels up to the 5th film, but they haven't actually made the last 2. They have made 2 and 3 back to back, and 2 is finished and they're releasing it, and 3 will be finished and released, but whether 4 and 5 will happen will probably rely on whether the films actually make money, because if they don't, they will, I guess, lose that financing. So that was interesting to find out that they haven't actually made 4 and 5 and they haven't actually really greenlit them, I don't think. Finance just means someone, assuming they make money out of your first 2 films, will pay for the 4th and 5th ones. So it's a bit more of a conventional contract, it looks like, apart from this just magical one that seemed to have been sort of talked about beforehand. And why didn't we see the sequels right away? Because James Cameron honestly admits that he didn't have any plans. He didn't have any story. He had nothing planned. There was no plan to do it. He was approached, of course, when the first film made money, to do others, and he said, yes, but I don't want to just do another film. I want to do a series. I want to pretend like it's Lord of the Rings and we're adapting novels that haven't been written. But he wanted to do it in that sort of approach. And artistically that makes sense. I've never understood why filmmakers don't plan with their sequels to make sequels. Like Star Trek, they made 1, they tore all the sets down, then they made 2, they tore all the sets down, they made 3, they tore all the sets down, they made 4, you get the picture here. They lost a lot of money tearing down sets and building them up again. Some of them were standing and were used for next gen, and they're able to use them for Star Trek 5 and 6, but for the most part, most of it were torn down and rebuilt. And a lot of movie series do that, where they don't plan, even story-wise. I'm like, why not just plan for it? If it doesn't happen, fine. If it does, you're already set. It just makes perfect sense, but of course they didn't do it. But James Cameron got, I don't know who's doing these films, it's Universal or who's doing it, but he got them to commit to that. So, but it was funny to see him admit that he had no plans, and it wasn't until 2 years later that he actually sat down and thought, well, I better write this, and started actually working on this, series of novels they were going to adapt, which of course didn't exist. So that was kind of fascinating. The other thing, which is just bizarre and I do not understand, Sigourney Weaver is in the film, and I thought, of course, she was in the first film. I forgot she died. Like I said, I only watched it once, and I've never watched it since, and I forgot the character died. I was totally oblivious to that. I just assumed she was coming back in the same character. But no, she's coming back as the 2 main characters, Jake and Neytiri. I've forgotten their names. I had to write them down. Their, I think, adopted daughter. Her name is Kiri. And I'm like, are you serious? She's playing an 18-year-old alien. She's 60-something years old, and she's got Sigourney Weaver voice. She sounded old when she was young. I don't mean that in a bad way. She just had a very strong, masculine sort of voice. I can't picture her voicing an 18-year-old girl and making it believable. Now, apparently she spent time with girls and she feels like she's in touch with her inner child, and being an actor, she probably never really grew up on that level. A lot of them sort of have arrested development, I think, because they don't sort of have normal lives. They sort of have these imaginary, fictional celebrity lives where they get pandered and babied and play imaginary characters all day. So there's something psychologically to be said for that sort of existence, especially if they start off as kid stars. I don't think she did, but the kid stars have it even worse. But yeah, apparently that's happening, and I'm like, really? You're playing an 18-year-old? If they have to change your voice that much to make it believable, why not just get someone else to do it? It doesn't make sense to me. But I'm going to go. I don't want to talk more than 5 minutes. But this is just interesting because there's news I didn't sort of know, and it contradicts what I had heard before and makes sense. And it's a lot more believable now as, what's happening with the Avatar sequels. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye. I might even go watch the film again.